Blue Sky is your home to all things politics this month. We extended an invitation to all of Saskatchewan's provincial party leaders. All but the Sask Party accepted our invitation to come on the show and answer questions from listeners. You can find videos of all of those interviews on the CBC Saskatchewan YouTube page under Blue Sky. Now, it is voting week, with the final day to cast your ballot being October 28th. So today we're spending the first half of our show with the leader of the Green Party, Naomi Hunter. If you have questions about the Green Party platform, you can call now, 1-800-716-2221. You can also email bluesky@cbc.ca. Naomi Hunter is the leader of the Saskatchewan Green Party. She's also the candidate for the Saskatoon-Riversdale constituency in this election. Her party is running 58 candidates in this election, and she is in our Regina studio today. Ms. Hunter, welcome to the show.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me.
I just want to learn a little bit more about you. Tell us a bit about yourself and what drew you to politics.
Well, I've been a long-time social justice and environmental activist since I was in high school. I helped collect signatures and start the Saskatchewan Green Party back when I was 13, and the federal wing of the Greens here in Saskatchewan as well. So I've been involved a very long time. I'm a single mother and a farmer. I farm with my dad every summer. We have a haskap orchard, and it doesn't quite make enough money to support us through the winter, so he has his retirement income, and I'm a silversmith. I have a tiny little art studio right in Riversdale, and that's a little bit about me.
So at 13, what was it about the Green Party that drew you in at that age?
I had been following Petra Kelly in Germany, who was the founder of the original German Greens and the Global Green Movement, and I loved her anti-war stance. I spent most of my senior year of high school in Saskatoon, camped out at City Hall, protesting the war in Iraq. So peace and social justice was, I was a voracious reader as a child, and I loved reading about history. And I really felt very, very strongly, and still do, that war is never the answer. And the massive amount of money that is spent on war would be better spent on things that people actually need. Hospitals, schools, roads, our educational system. And it meant enough to me that as time went on and I really continued to be involved in doing petitions, protests, every which way to try to get attention to issues that I cared about, it always seemed that I was talking to a politician. And then it finally got to a point where I realized it's time for me to step up. It's time for me to try to get my voice heard at a political level.
And you've always felt connected to the Greens. It's always interesting to hear how people's politics evolve, and I think you often hear the line, people become more conservative the older they get, and that's not true for everyone, but it is, something that's said. So why do you think it's been this party all along for you? Or has it been this party all along? I mean, clearly today and back when you were 13.
It has been this party all along. I think the last person who really inspired me in any other party was Kathy Spruill in the NDP, but they have lost all environmental conscience at this point.
Tell me more about that. Tell me about your take on the two largest parties in the province, the Sask Party and the NDP. What criticisms do you have of those parties?
I would say to voters right now that these two parties have become more and more alike, of course, because both of them are trying to reach that middle-of-the-road voter. They are trying not to take stances too far in either direction in many cases. And when people say that they are voting for the NDP because they're voting for change, is it enough change? Look at our platform. Look at the Green Party and you will see that nobody else is actually calling for a guaranteed livable income, ending poverty in the province of Saskatchewan, ending homelessness, which has reached endemic proportions, especially in our urban centres of Saskatoon and Regina. We're talking about rapidly transitioning people into permanent housing, real climate action. The environmental stances that I see from every other political party in this province are lukewarm at best and often actually counterproductive. We're talking about making sure that we reach net zero by 2035. We need to cap our emissions within the next 2 years. Saskatchewan is so far above the national average on the emissions that we're putting out that we are literally responsible for Canada not meeting its Paris Accord agreements.
Let's go to a caller. We've already got a couple people on the line, actually. So Ingrid in Regina, I'll welcome you to the show. Hello, Ingrid.
Hi. Hi, Naomi. I'm just calling to ask you to talk about the Green Party's policy on nuclear because Scott Moe wants to bring in these I call them SMNRs because they purposely miss the word nuclear. But if you could talk about that, that would be really good.
Thank you, Ingrid. Well, both the Sask Party and the NDP have actually said that they are in favour of the nuclear solution for Saskatchewan. We are absolutely opposed to this. We want to see Saskatchewan move to clean, green energy sources. We have the best solar hours per anywhere in the country. We have the best wind option for anywhere in the country. This needs to be done quickly. Nuclear is expensive. We are a small population already in huge debt. We cannot afford the giant price tag that comes with nuclear. As well, we're a drought-prone province. And these SMNRs are proposed to have the water source needed to cool them from Leif Diefenbaker, which is also, ironically, where Scott Moe is proposing that the Diefenbaker Dam expansion water will come from. 70% of Saskatchewan's drinking water comes from this water source, and it's incredibly irresponsible. If a nuclear spill were to happen, this would affect the drinking water for the majority of the province.
Tell me more about what makes you think a nuclear spill is possible with a small modular reactor. Tell me about that.
All reactors do create waste, and calling it a small modular reactor is actually a misnomer as well. The footprint of these actually is as large as a regular reactor. That's one of the things that has been a mistruth that's been put out as well. These reactors will not be using Saskatchewan uranium. They're a Hitachi model, which will be using enriched uranium coming from a nuclear power plant in South Carolina. And the fuel will actually be trucked up to Saskatchewan, and then we'll create 55 tons of enriched uranium waste over its lifetime.
That? I will fully admit that perhaps I haven't done all my homework on this, but how do you know that? Where are you finding that the uranium it's a Hitachi model and it's being brought up from the south?
I have been reading extensively from experts, but go to the site cleangreensaskatchewan.ca, not associated with the Saskatchewan Green Party. This is an independent organization, and you will be able to find all this information on there.
Ingrid, are you still with us? Did you want to ask any follow-up questions on that? Did that answer it for you?
Yeah, the other thing is to focus a little more. I know you already said that the cost is astronomical, but if you could compare that to, say, doing some installations of solar maybe over parking lots in cities instead of using good agricultural land, because I know a lot of rural people don't, say that we shouldn't be covering up good agricultural land with solar collectors, although some farmers have them anyway. But, we could be using them over top of parking lots and other kinds of buildings in the cities and towns. So could you talk more about how it compares, how nuclear compares price-wise with installing solar power?
Nuclear is the most expensive option for power that there is available, compared to solar, which now comes in at the lowest possible price tag. And not only that, but Saskatchewan used to have the best solar net metering project in the country, and that was axed with almost no warning by Scott Moe and the Sask Party. And this put hundreds of tiny little small and micro businesses out of work who were actively installing solar in the province of Saskatchewan. We need to move back to readily available solar, wind, geothermal, all those kind of clean energy solutions, because the climate crisis doesn't have the kind of timeline that nuclear has.
And would that provide enough power for us? One of the arguments made in favor of small modular, as you say, nuclear reactors, is that they would provide a base power source, right? That it's reliable when solar may not be. What are your thoughts on that? Would the suggestions that you're making, would that provide enough base power for Saskatchewan?
Absolutely. And in fact, I would say that nuclear is actually more risky as far as base power goes. On average, most nuclear power plants are shut down for 1 to 2 months out of every year for conditioning and servicing. Compare that to solar I was asked about this when my children and I were living off-grid at the Crake Eco Village. We were relying completely on solar panels. And yes, we had to do more things on days that were sunny when most people would be outside enjoying the sun. And then on a little bit cloudier days, we actually still weren't suffering. We were producing enough extra power that my young children at the time would sometimes be watching Disney movies on a little portable DVD player I had because we were just using up our extra power. The fact of the matter is that all over the world, people are managing to supply their power and energy needs. We do not have a problem of not being able to accomplish this in Saskatchewan, where our major source of fuel right now is still coal. What we lack is political will.
I'll stop you there for a moment because I want to bring in another caller. But first, Ingrid, I just want to thank you for reaching out today. I appreciated those questions. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, let's go to someone else. So Maria in Swift Current. Hi, Maria.
Hi. So I agree that Sask Party and NDP need to be wiped off the political map. They're failing completely. But, I read your Green Party newsletter, The Weaver, and you talk about democracy and the duty to consult in referendums. So I'm wondering, because the real issue I have with the Green Party right now is reckoning with the creation of this whole new industry and this technocracy that's evolving. And I feel like there's a lot of myth-truth into how clean and environmentally friendly these technologies are and the vulnerability this is going to leave us in. So I was wondering, if you are elected and form government, would you have a public consultation and referendums on this energy transition and treat it more like a legal argument where we have all the evidence and facts on the table?
Hi, Maria. You know what? These are excellent points. And one of the first things that the Greens would do upon forming government is actually give a lot of that power away. We would bring in a voting system that actually has one vote equal one vote. And I do believe that citizens should be frequently involved in government decisions. I can remember back when I was younger, referendums were actually a common thing. People got to vote on major decisions in between elections. This is important. And as far as the technology aspect of transitioning over, I actually have in the platform, and I think it's actually quite important, we actually need to also look to all sorts of natural solutions as well. I agree with you. We need to have our farmers look to permaculture solutions. We need incentives put in place to encourage people to lock in carbon, to not destroy wetlands, to preserve our natural grasslands. And we need to incentivize this happening through our agricultural system and individuals as well. We need to look to having preventative health care through our province by looking at natural solutions like encouraging healthy lifestyles so that people don't end up in emergency rooms. I'm thoroughly in favor of all kinds of solutions that get us to net zero, that are inclusive and well-rounded and not just focusing purely on technology. You're right.
Okay.
There's a lot of other things we can do.
Maria, thank you for the call. I really appreciate it.
Thanks.
That's Maria joining us today on the show. We may not have time for other callers because I want to introduce people to one of the candidates running for the Green Party. Remy Rowe is vice president of the Saskatchewan Green Party. He's running for Moosomin-Momart, and he's joining us via Google Meet right now. Mr. Rowe, welcome to Blue Sky.
Thank you, and it's an honor to be here.
What made you want to run for the Green Party?
I'm old and I'm tired. My family is old. There's a lot of things that has happened in my family. I am Indigenous. I am actually refusing my status card, because it doesn't mean anything. It expires. So therefore, if it expires, we're nothing more than a commodity. And moving 390 times in my life, being around our elders and our knowledge keepers and our teachers, I am not an elder, and I do not speak on their behalf. I speak on behalf of no nations but myself. That's the first thing I do want to clear up.
Running, though, as a candidate for the Green Party, and if you were to be elected, you would represent the people of your constituency. So what are the top issues that you're hearing about on the doorstep?
The same things I've heard in many, many different places that I live. Healthcare. In Saskatchewan, they've centralized healthcare. So they take everything and they move it into the bigger communities because that's where most of the people are. But they've left the vulnerable, the elders, the Indigenous peoples isolated for healthcare. So they have to travel more. And then the next thing they did was they canceled the Saskatchewan Transit Commission. So now not only did they isolate them, but they really set them aside. And people are being left marginalized, those that need to have healthcare the same as everybody else. See, humanity needs to take place. If we don't focus on humanity, then we're losing a lot. And Mother Earth is so important.
How would you govern? Tell us about something in the platform that you want to see in practice if you were to be elected.
Well, one of the things about the Green Party is that we are being guided by elders of many nations. The Sovereign Indigenous Peoples Advisory Council has approached the Green Party. We are not funded by the Green Party, number one.
What is that organization that you mentioned?
It's called the Sovereign Indigenous Peoples Advisory Council. It is something that was started by elders and by knowledge keepers and by people who follow a traditional path. The system is not broken. The system was created this way to marginalize the first people of Turtle Island. The system itself, even at a provincial level, takes its basis from the federal government. And one of the biggest things that's wrong is the Indian Act, which needs to be abolished, but cannot be abolished without proper support and allies within provincial governments. So our organization is actually helping to guide the Saskatchewan Green Party to live in a more inclusive environment, recognizing the Indigenous people as sovereign, which is the terminologies that colonialisms use. It also recognizes our original governance system. So we have two governance systems discussing how to make a better world for the next 7 generations.
Okay. Mr. Roy, thank you so much for being with us today. I really appreciate it.
You're quite welcome. I am so honored to be here. And again, like I say, I speak for no nations, although we cover many nations. Each nation is independent, yet our problems are all the same. And it is the same from coast to coast. As I said, I've moved 390 times in my life. I am now settled and retired in Grenfell. And I plan on not moving again. We need to look at our history and how we got to this point of individuality and self-absorption. It's always about ourselves, me first, instead of being a collective.
Well, I thank you for raising the issues that you did today. I really appreciate it. That is Rami Rowe, Vice President of the Saskatchewan Green Party, running for Moosomin-Momart. Our other guest today is Naomi Hunter, leader of the Saskatchewan Green Party. We don't have a ton of time left, but I do want to ask you, you've got 58 candidates who are running, and your party says that 27 out of 58 identify as Indigenous?
Indigenous or Métis, yes, which I feel was people were drawn to run for us because we brought in a policy called the Rights of Mother Earth and then spent an entire year with a policy and procedure group rewriting our entire policy book that has taken place since the Saskatchewan Greens began bringing in Indigenous wisdom and having that be the foundation of our party. And I had so many candidates who stepped up and said, you know what, this is what's inspired me to become involved in politics for the very first time. And to me, I think that it's so important for youth in marginalized communities, and especially in our north in Saskatchewan, to see faces on that provincial election stage that look like them. I think that this is a powerful moment of reconciliation.
Ms. Hunter, so good to have you on the show today. Thank you for being part of these conversations. They've been important. They've been so valuable for listeners, so thank you.
Thank you for having me.
That is Naomi Hunter, leader of the Saskatchewan Green Party. She's a candidate for Saskatoon-Riversdale in this election, and as you heard, her party is running 58 candidates in this election.